What's good, good people? Vets, let's talk. We got a special guest in front of the formation today, Chief Master Sergeant Ralph Ave. Hey, before we get started, I'd like you guys to click that like, share, and subscribe, man. HBO special. Y'all don't know what that is. Help a brother out. Hey, man, how you doing today, my brother?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Man, I can't complain, man. There's another day down, trying to get through some things, but I'm through it. We all,
Right.
we all try to get through something, man. How the family doing?
Oh, they're good. They're good. We just got back from one of my daughter's tournaments down in Seal Beach. So
Hmm.
we didn't do too bad. It was NCAA certified, so some of
Oh,
her older players are getting looked at.
how did they do?
Uh they were challenging elite teams, so they won one. And the other three were pretty competitive. They didn't win, but one of them was really elite, like elite. So yeah, it showed. So
So they had college students playing against the little ones, huh?
yeah, they look like it.
It's all good, brother. Hey, let's get started on these questions. Do you remember where you were during 9/11?
Yeah, I was in Osan Air Base, Korea. Um, we were loading A-10 aircrafts. We were loading 2,000 pounders on the A-10s, and somebody came up and like, hey, you hear what happened on TV? Because we're out in the flight line, we don't hear nothing. We're just focused on doing what we got to do. And like somebody crashed into the building. We're like, nah, that can't be real, And then the same guy went back in. He came back out again and said, man, they crashed into a second one. We're like, what? So everybody, and like, where's this coming from? And it's New York. And what's crazy was my one man, my supervisor, my our crew chief, that's the boss, our supervisor of loading those the aircraft. We were a 3-man crew. He was our one man. He was from New York. Yeah, so it was like, you know what? So we loaded our last jet, and I told my boss, I said, let's stop this, man. You're from there. I know you're worried about your family. Let's stop this because we're on explosives, and let's just be safe about it. And about an hour later, we had a meeting. The commander came out, and we had a meeting and said, "Hey, stand by. Our aircraft is specialized for air to ground missions, and just stand by. We don't know what's gonna happen, but just pretty much just stand by." So that's where I was on 9/11.
Oh wow. It never amazes me how like no one story is the same. Everybody's story is different. And I love hearing it. That's why I kind of start off with that. So okay, let's get into question number one. How did you imagine military life before you joined? How did your perception change after serving? That's like two
Okay.
questions.
Yeah. So when I joined, I thought we had no weekends. I thought we had no life. It was like work, 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 business, business. And so I figured, okay, I'll go to basic. And I wasn't used to getting yelled at a lot because I grew up with my mom, and then I grew up a single parent, and I didn't really have nobody really yell at me or anything. So it was like, holy crap, you know. And I look really young at 21. I People thought I was still 16 at that time. And so my drill instructor is like, come here, little boy. I was 21 already. He's like, come here, little boy. I'm like, damn, this is what I go through. Right. And so I figured after basic, okay, cool. They'll give us our weekends on the tech school and as we go out. And then when I got to my first duty station, my supervisor at that time was like, man, let's get this done so we can enjoy the weekend. And my thoughts, we get a weekend? So, so that was crazy. But yeah, so my perception after that, how people join the military. Oh, I want benefits. I want this and that.
Yes.
Uh, After all that, it was like, man, you better love your country to go through all of this.
Hmm.
You know. So I learned how to love my country through basic, through tech school, and through just serving. Because at first, I just wanted a free ticket off the island. I'm born and raised in Hawaii.
Oh, that's amazing. So, hey, first, let me say, hey man, you look to be in your early 30s, bro. I'm.
Yeah,
You say you look 16. I was like, this dude don't look like no no E. He's up there. Chief
I'm
Master
44
Sergeant.
right now, bro.
Yeah,
44.
you look young, bro. That's good. It's in the genes, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
I was kind of the same way when I got the basic. I was like, man, well, this is gonna be a hard 2.5 months. Like
Right.
no weekends of rest. You know, we got a little bit of rest on the weekend. I was just so surprised when that took place. Like, whoa, so I get to sleep in
Yeah,
an additional 15 minutes.
right. Oh,
So, hey,
that was like, man, that was like eternity. 15 minutes in basic.
right. No TV though, but it seemed like all day, like, man, we just free. Okay, we can just sit here and do nothing. Not really nothing. You had to do something, but at the same time, it's not what we do during the weeks. So let me jump off
Right.
this next questions. What are some of the things you remember about adapting to military life?
I just had having to be mentally stronger because in the like I said, I was on the flight line, and in the flight line, if you're not mentally tough, man, they're gonna eat you up alive.
Yeah.
If they see you like really soft skinned, or they see you always going to the what do you call it, sick call, right? Because you got a little owie or whatever. I mean, it could be painful, but everybody kind of toughed it out. But then if you go every time to sick call, I mean, you just got picked on. So so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not very, as you can, I'm not very a big person. I'm pretty small, but I have to like, stand my ground and let them know, hey, I may be small, but I ain't the one to pick on. So and I had to prove myself at work too.
Right.
Being around heavy equipment, and I'm like, man, because I came in, I came in basic at 106.
Really?
Yeah, so the doc at MES was like, "You really want to join the Air Force?" I'm like, "Yes, sir." He was like, "You are no longer 5'4", you are 5'3". So so that's how I got in, and a lot of the equipment, they're heavy, and so I said, man, I better do something about it. So I started hitting the gym, getting stronger, and just so I can hang with the guys and not be a burden to them, just hold my own weight. So I learned, like, yeah, you better hold your own weight, or else you may be a burden to the crew that you're with, no matter who it is.
That's major, man. Stepping up to the plate when you think that you didn't really know, but not that you thought that you couldn't hang with those guys, but you pulled yourself through. That's big. I respect that a whole lot, my brother. Hey,
I appreciate it.
when did you leave the military? What was the process like?
So with active duty, I left active duty in 2005.
Right.
Um, I was caught in the reshaping at that time. They were reshaping the military. They were downsizing, and I got caught up in that somehow, some way. I did send in my military, not my military, but my reenlistment paperwork. But for some odd reason, it never went through all the way to the staff that was supposed to get it. So when I went to reenlist, they're like, "You can't reenlist." I'm like, I turned in my paperwork, and they said they never received it. I'm like, huh, interesting. So I found out later on with my reserve unit that I joined, I found out the whole history because we went to Korea twice a year,
Hmm.
and the buddies I was stationed in Kadena with, where I got out of, were stationed there too, and they told me the whole background of why I couldn't reenlist, and after that I was just mad. But no, I wasn't ready. I still I wanted to serve active duty 20 years. I just wasn't ready. The process was, you have a checklist, go here, go there, and in my head I was just like, man, what the heck am I gonna do with my life when I get when I officially get out of active duty? And that was me. That was my transitioning. What my transitioning process was like. I didn't want to get out, but I had to. I had no choice.
I guess that's pretty much everybody's process. Retire or ETS. That's like what's next. That big question, the whole fear of what does tomorrow look like without the umbrella of the
Exactly.
military. It's scary. It's very scary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't care what nobody say, man. You got safety, you got everything coming into you. you got the years in your rank of being in charge of a lot of things, millions of dollars worth of equipment. And then you just come from this. You in a sense you feel like a superstar. Like how these movie stars all of a sudden they so famous, and then all of a sudden they fame just falls off the earth, and they just feel like nobody, they get the press. It's in a sense I see it as no different because you seen as somebody in the military. It, it, it can be terrifying. It can be
Oh
that.
yeah, especially when they give you, like you know what to do. You know how to lead your troops. You know how to, because I got out as a staff sergeant. It's an E5 in the Air Force, and in the Air Force, rumors says the E5s do carry the whole Air Force because they're the ones who's in the middle, who reports from bottom and top. They're kind of like the middle ground because they're actually the ones out there still, as an E5.
Right.
So
Yeah, that is pretty big. So, what were some of the fears transitioning out of the military, if any?
yeah, so my biggest fear was just because I was around, I worked with explosives. I'm like, does my background translate to the civilian world,
Hmm.
And because what I was like, what kind of jobs are out there for guys that deal with explosives who load aircraft and all that? Then I started doing my resume, and our responsibility was to take care of the maintenance systems on the aircraft. So anything went wrong, we had to go in there and fix them. So there I was like, huh, this is pretty technical. Actually, when I started looking, I started doing all my resumes and stuff. And but just my biggest fear was like, how are they gonna look at me? How am I gonna look at them? Um, because we all have different experiences, right? A 22-year-old that joined the military at 18 compared to a guy with a bachelor's degree that just went to college at 18, 22. It would be two totally different perspectives, right? One has like life experiences and the other one just has school experience. That's all theory, right? This other guy has on the job training. This other guy just had all theory. And so I'm like, man, I got to compete with these guys. I don't have a degree. I mean, I had my associate's degree for electronics, but that was it. But yeah, my biggest fear was just, man, how does my skills translate out there? How am I going to react to people? Because you can't chew them out anymore. It's you're in, so it's a whole lot different environment, and then it's all about hookups sometimes, right? It's they got that $25 an hour job because their dad works over there, and that's kind of stuff we just go. But yeah, that was like just how am I gonna adjust to not being part of the military majority of my life.
You just said something about a person with a bachelor's degree and you coming out of the military with nothing. And the biggest misconception is, I'm fresh out of the military. Everybody's gonna be just knocking on my door. And you said something else about the hookups. I remember taking the test for Secret Service. It was me and another individual in there. Like, I was sitting down talking to the guy before we took the test. He said, "Yeah, my dad's he's like one of the big guys here, so I don't have to take the test. He just making me take it just to take it." And I'm just looking like, yeah, I'm just, I already know who has it. They only had one slot, but I was like, okay, I already know who's the good old boy system. But a lot of the times, if you really don't know anybody, or if your paperwork is not lined up to look better than somebody else's, that's like a big misconception that we're ahead of the crowd on a lot of things. Some jobs, yeah, we are, but a lot of them, not really. So you really got to be on top of your game as far as your school and your training, and actually what are you researching on your way out? Like, are you looking into VA programs as far as your certifications of education or whatever it is, continuing education while in the military? So that's really a big step. So
yeah. And that was cool about the Air Force. They have you're automatically enrolled in the community college of the Air Force. So, you just had your credits and you can get an associate's degree getting before you get out. So
I didn't know that. You automatically enrolled? I didn't know that.
Yeah, once you join the basic training, you're automatically enrolled. So you get credits from basic, from all the technical schools you go to, from all the leadership schools you go to, and then you just got to take like 3 or 4 other classes like speech, math, English. There was another one I believe, and then it completes your credits for an associate's degree.
Okay, we grab in the army. They take some of the credits from the school and you go to, but not like the math and stuff that you talking about.
Oh, okay.
Jesus. But anyway, hey, was there anything or anyone that helped you during the transition from military to civilian life?
It was my mom, man. She saw me struggling. I was struggling bad because it was such a quick adjustment. Like I wasn't ready for it. But she told me, hey, I was back home in Hawaii, and she's like, you know how to take the bus, and, go to the base, go to the gym, just go get some stuff out of your system. She just kept telling me, just have faith, things will work out. And then, man upstairs, right? When you get really down, you got to look up. That's the only way to look up. So, but yeah, he helped me go through all that stuff, man. And I guess I say it was a blessing in disguise for me because I met my wife funny when I was in the middle of Iraqi freedom at Saudi Arabia. We were part of that buildup, and my grandpa wasn't doing that well at that time in the Philippines, and I called him up every so often to see how he was doing because I knew he was, about to go, and I didn't want to, I want to make sure that I could still talk to him. And my cousin answers the phone, and she goes, "Hey, Grandpa got a phone number for you." I'm like, "What?" Yeah, it's she, yeah, it's a girl, and he wants you to introduce yourself to her. I'm like, I'm in the middle of something right now. I mean, you know? But yeah. So I said, all right, I just grabbed the number, and then once all this done, when I get back from deployment, I'll give her a call. And so at that time, they weren't really letting people go to the Philippines because of the terrorism that was going on. So when I got out of active duty, we were talking for 3 years, 2002 to 2005. So we were talking for at least 3 years. That's just like this, FaceTiming, or I don't know what they called it back then, but
this is the grandpa hookup, huh?
yeah, yeah. So and I think to myself, maybe it was a blessing in disguise that I couldn't reenlist because now I can go to the Philippines and get to see my grandfather, get to see my family, and then meet this girl, and then history ever since, man.
That's good stuff, man. Grandpa,
Yeah,
grandpa hooked you up, bro.
yeah. I guess he wanted to see me, kind of starting a family before he went. So
Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that. Thanks, grandpa.
yeah, right.
That's good stuff, man. Okay, what advice do you have for someone transitioning out of the military?
My advice: if you really know that you're gonna get out, network with the people around you, especially with civil service guys, contractors, because when you're active duty, reserve, guard, whatever, you're gonna be working side by side with those guys. Network with them, get their contacts. Say, hey, I'm getting out. Ask them for advice, or ask them if you can use them as a reference, and then also start your resume. Learn the lingo. Learn the lingo out of the military, because like you say field day, right? I don't know if you know what field day is, but field day for us in the Air Force was like mandatory fun. Go out and go hang out. But in the Navy, it was like clean up. It was like mops and brooms, and you got to go clean up, right? So there's the same words, but it's two different things, right? But just learn the lingo, know how to translate your skills to the civilian side, make it not in layman's terms, but in professional terms, and then just practice being around people, because a lot of times we just like, man, look at that guy, but we don't know what's going on with that guy. Maybe he's acting that way for some reason, and we just assume. But like in the military, like I said, when I was on the flight line, if you're soft skinned, you get picked on real bad, But in the civilian world, you got to kind of adjust that mindset. Like instead of say, hey, you got to toughen up, man. Hey, what's going on? But I was like that too when I was in the military. I really tried to take care of my guys, make sure I was there for them. So. But other than that, just know how to adjust your lingo because it's tough. I'm still adjusting. Uh, I
Yeah.
see like an 18-year-old kid, or I'm sorry, maybe like a 22-year-old kid with engineering degree and making twice as much as me when I have all this experience. He's just straight out of college, no life experience. And I'm like, man, this, he's just like,
Yeah. It sucks. It sucks. That's big. Networking and getting those connections and
yeah,
communicating with people while you like walking in that uniform as opposed to civilian clothes with a beard on your face. It looks different. And
right,
continue to like build that rapport while you're in. Like, hey, how you doing today? I really, I'm on my way out and I really, can I sit with you and see what you do all day? Hey, you mind if I do like a little training thing with you to see what you do? Just to show them that you're interested in what they're doing.
exactly.
It's all about those connections and the language. Let me tell you, everything's not an F-bomb because we're not in the military no more.
Yeah.
You just can't
Oh
do that
yeah,
no more. Hey man,
yeah. So I'll tell you a story about how I got here from Hawaii because I was working I was so 2005 I got out. Um, then like I said, I was struggling. I was working for Avis and Budget at night. Um, doing interviews during the day. I just had to have some kind of income to sustain myself. And on my last active duty paycheck, Raytheon called me. It's a big defense contractor. They said, "Hey, you're one of the 6 candidates that we chose out of the 1,000 people that
oh wow.
we interviewed or whatever." And I'm like, "Cool. I'm gonna thank God you guys called because I was on my last active duty terminal paycheck." So,
Wow.
and then when I got that job, I met a guy in there. We were two. There were 6 of us, and he was one of the guys that got selected also. And we became really good friends. And then when the contract changed to Lockheed Martin, he came up here to California to the Navy base here and was a federal employee. So what's crazy is my reserve unit that I joined in Hawaii was a detachment of the unit down here in California. That was about 2.5 hours away from him. And so my unit was like, hey, can you do active duty orders in California? I said, yes, sir. So I went down, I did my active duty orders, and my chief was like, he heard about my friend saying, hey, why don't you come up here, check it out, see if you like it or not.
Mm.
And my chief said, hey, take the day off, go check it out, man. I'm like, for real? So like, yeah, we got it here. Like, cool. So drove up there, met the boss, and he's like, well, we have nothing for you right now, but just leave me your resume and we'll see if things come up. So 2 years later, I'm still in Hawaii. 2 years later, my friend calls me up. He's like, hey, a job's opening up and they're only looking for your name. I'm like, what? Yeah. So go on USA Jobs right now and put in your resume. I'm like, are you serious? Like, yeah. So that boss at that time, he became my boss later, but he asked my friend, said, who's replacing you? He said, oh, remember the guy you met 2 years ago that you just, just talk story with? He's like, yeah. And he's like, he's replacing me here. And then the boss goes, oh, I already did his interview. So, and that's how I got the job here.
That's amazing, bro. So it's one thing that you failed to kind of mention. You talked about your actor, but you have another, you know, 20 years doing something else, right? Because you was in the Air Force and then you like transitioned over to the reserves.
Yeah. So I still had that, like I grew very prideful of the USA, and I still wanted to serve. I didn't want to just shut it down right there. And this reserve unit, so this this recruiter that you know how you have to out process through a guard or reserve recruiter in Okinawa. He he actually said, "Oh, you still want to serve?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just got screwed over from this force shaping thing." Oh, okay. Coincidentally, he had a I'm sorry, a reserve recruiters conference in Hawaii
Hmm.
where I was PCSing out to, and then this unit needed explosive guy, a 2W1 guy or a 2WO guy, and he mentioned my name in that recruiters conference where that unit were looking for my specific skill set in the Air Force. So he mentioned that, then that reserve unit called me up and said, "Hey, we heard you're a 2W." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Do you want to come down for an interview?" I said, "Okay," because it was a really high level type reserve unit. It was like wing level type, you know, and that's because I was gonna go to the guard, and the guard was just taking forever, forever, forever. And I'm like, "Well, we got a bonus." Well, I have an E8 slot guaranteed here with this reserve unit. I'm gonna go to that one, you know,
Hmm.
because over time that bonus will just add up to maybe until I'm E6. But then if I go all the way to E8, that's more money in the long run, right? And more experiences, more privileges. Military. The more straps you get, the more privileges you get.
Yeah.
And yeah, and this unit, they maybe do a lot just to get that E9 stripe. And say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. And the biggest thing about me was like, hey, you're very like low key. You don't really stand out too much. And I'm like, well, that's not me. I'm very reserved. I'm not gonna yell in your face. That's not my type of leadership. And like, well, you need to do this, and then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be that way, And they were like, so that my last tribe was like, hey, we're thinking about giving you that chief master sergeant stripe. And I told them straight up, I said, you know what, once I'm done at 20, I'm done. So if you want to give me that stripe, that's up to you.
Hmm.
So that was my attitude towards it. And everybody's like, hey man, you got a chance for that stripe, man. I'm like, yeah, the only why I want that stripe is that parking spot. That's it. So but yeah, so I told that to my lieutenant colonel, and the next week my lieutenant colonel calls me up after I told him. I said, I'm done at 20. I was already at like 17 and a half. And he was like, hey, Senior Ave, you going to chief school? I'm like, what? So yeah, he says you're going to chief school next week. I'm like, oh well, that's quick notice. So yeah, so I went to Warner Robins for a week to go to a chief orientation, and then that's how I became a chief. Yeah, like I said, I was not very loud, gregarious. I was very low key. My main thing was just taking care of my guys.
That's good. That's leadership. Hey, you ain't gotta be you don't have to be loud to be seen. Hey.
Exactly.
Hey man, I appreciate you for your time, man. Thank you. Thank your wife, man. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Grandpa.
Yeah, right.
I really appreciate you for your service, bro. Thank you for your patriotism. Like, thank you for everything that you have done for this country, bro. I mean that. I mean that for any and everybody that's been on here. I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate the spouses because they had to deal with a lot of things while you guys are gone. And a lot of times that becomes unnoticed by the person wearing the uniform. Hey, man, who's up next for formation, man? Hey, man, come on, jump on here and give me a good little conversation like this young man just did in his 30s, talking about he's 44 something. But hey, anyway, let's talk. Who's up next?